Fellow St. Lucians, as most of you have marked the start of a new year, we must acknowledge that 2024 brought incredible challenges and extraordinary achievements, which showed that despite our size, St. Lucia is capable of great things when we dare to dream big and prepare for success. Last year will forever be remembered as the year Julian Alfred blazed her way into the history books, bringing home 2 Olympic medals, gold and silver, for the first time. Julian has inspired a new generation of young athletes through her dedication and discipline, capturing the global spotlight and introducing millions worldwide to our island. Naomi London, also a student at the University of Texas, is quickly following Julian's footsteps. Her explosive speed and unwavering determination have already caught the world's attention. We look forward to rejoicing in their future triumphs. We are so proud of Camien Elise, who, just at 23 years old, earned the prestigious FIDE Master title in chess. His brilliance shows that we can excel not only in physical pursuits, but in intellectual arenas as well. And let's not forget our living legend, Darren Sammy, whose inspiring leadership and competitiveness poised West Indies cricket for a return to their glory days. Then there are our rising cricket stars, Zadia James and Akeem Ogist, along with many more individuals and teams who continue to inspire us with their prowess and passion. And we celebrate the incredible St. Lucia Kings, who have brought home the CPL trophy for the first time, uniting every St. Lucian in celebration and pride. All these achievements are more than moments of pride. They remind us of what we can achieve. But in these moments, we must also ask ourselves a question. How did they succeed? And what kind of investments will be necessary for the next generation to succeed? United Workers' Party had already begun to answer that question by supporting some of those same athletes in various ways, not the least of which was building a world-class sporting facilities in each community and establishing a sports academy, which Zadia James attended, to prepare our athletes and coaches for international team and individual competition. At the same time of election, we were about to open a youth and sports authority, funded by the revenues from our lottery, dedicated to preparing and supporting our youth and athletes and strengthening our clubs. All this to make sure that we have the best chance to succeed. Instead, this government has taken these same funds, $800,000 a month, to repay a loan for the next 15 years, robbing our youth and athletes of the promise of a future in sports. Whilst we must celebrate all our successes, we cannot ignore the hardships many St. Lucians have endured and continue to endure. I recently sat with 2 families in the south of the island, a mother working tirelessly at 2 jobs and still struggling to meet her family's monthly expenses, and a father who lost his livelihood as a result of a business closure, now unable to support his 3 bright-eyed children who yearn for more. The mother shared her anxiety about the harsh choices she faces between meeting bills for food, rent, electricity, water, bus fares, medication, and the often inability to meet the basic needs of her children. The father spoke with tears in his eyes about his helplessness and shame. This is their reality, and for too many St. Lucians, this is their reality too. My friends, these stories are not isolated. They're now woven into the fabric of too many St. Lucians, struggling daily under broken promises, misguided policies, and failed leadership. Nearly 4 years ago, the St. Lucian Labour Party swept into office, beating pans, and clearly had no plans, but instead made empty promises to put you first. As we see daily, they, their families, and their comrades have been placed first. They speak of love for Saint Lucia, yet their neglect speaks louder. stopping of the St. Jude's Hospital, the Honore International Airport, the Grosley Highway, the numerous housing developments, and many more projects that were underway indict this administration and speak clearly to their self-serving priorities. Rather than finding ways to improve upon these projects and allow them to flourish, they made false allegations of corruption, which in 3.5 years and the appointment of a special prosecutor, they have yet to prove anything. Their arrogance and greed have led them to stop these essential projects at all of our expense. They've proven once again that it's politics that they put first and to protect the victory. They stopped work on the new modern St. Jude Hospital, nearing completion to return to a 60-year-old building that could not meet international standards. Had they continued work on the new St. Jude's Hospital, we'd have moved out of the stadium over 3 years ago and saved over $150 million. The plan to use the second floor for International Hospital with a helicopter pad would also have been completed. The old St. Jude's buildings were earmarked to become a nursing college. The South would have had one of the most enviable hospitals in the Caribbean. The nurses, doctors, and patients would finally, after 13 years, leave the makeshift hospital formerly known as the George Odlum Stadium in Vieux Fort. Our young women and men would have had the opportunity to be trained nurses in a career high demand around the world. And sadly, we lost opportunities for new businesses and jobs that would have been required to support 2 hospitals and a university. All of this was thrown away in the pursuit of political oppression. The hypocrisy of their election cry that we cannot eat roads when the United Workers' Party managed to develop the country even during COVID was laid bare when the SLP declared in 2024 the year of infrastructure. What a joke. Our highways are riddled with potholes that damage vehicles daily and add unnecessary expenses and endanger people's lives. Even during the worst financial challenges of our country has ever faced, we had more infrastructural development than the past year. Everything with this government is lies, empty promises, and propaganda. They can manage nothing. We can all see that they've been in dismal failure in managing the redevelopment of the Millennium Highway and West Coast Road for 4 years with no end in sight. Their stupidity in abandoning the redevelopment of the Honore International Airport, a cornerstone of our tourism sector and jobs for the South, shows that they have learned nothing about tourism or economic growth. 4 years later, it languishes in limbo, and their new proposed airport will not only be significantly smaller, but as usual, with their projects, will cost almost double what was initially outlined. Once again, our citizens are left to bear the brunt of their mismanagement. Frankly, what is going on is nothing short of insanity. In opposition, they complained when gas prices were $13.95 a gallon. But now, on their watch, we face the highest gas prices in the OECS at $16.50 a gallon. And they're doing nothing to provide relief for us, our bus drivers and taxi drivers. They argued against reducing the VAT to 12.5%, a UWP decision that directly led to growth of our economy and relief to our businesses and consumers, and hit us all with an unnecessary 2.5% levy instead, manifestly lying that it was to improve health and security, which we later found out was to service yet another government loan. These are not just policy failures, but outright hypocrisy and a total betrayal of our trust. Our health sector is in crisis and on the verge of collapse. As predicted by the SLMA, nurses and doctors have left in droves, and those who remain are stretched to their breaking point, working in facilities that lack even the most essential resources, such as Panadol and water. Patients are dying needlessly, not because our medical staff lack skill or compassion, but because they are denied the opportunity to use them. A few days ago, I went to visit a strong party stalwart, Lincoln Skinny Maynard, who had advanced cancer at OKEU. And I was stunned to find him sitting on a plastic chair in casualty, amongst a group of other patients, strangers to him, a few of whom were coughing. My wife had visited immediately prior and asked the nurses for some masks for those who were sick to avoid any germs infecting Skinny. The swift reply came back that there were no masks and she should bring as many as possible if she had some. The hospital knew of Skinny's medical condition, as he had been treated there a few weeks prior, but he was merely provided oxygen and some medication to help him breathe. He ended up sitting in that chair for a total of 40 hours in dire discomfort, unable to get help to even get to the bathroom for the entire time. I saw several other St. Lucians in similar predicament, languishing on a makeshift bed, stretchers, and chairs of various sorts, waiting for medical attention. Frankly, I was not only dismayed by the conditions they were, but heartbroken to see the total breakdown of a medical facility that our administration had been running efficiently even during COVID-19 when finances were at their tightest. I am grateful that I had both the time and the means to move Skinny to Tapio, but regrettably, he passed away a day later. However, Skinny had the time to call me a few hours before he passed, to thank me for arranging for him to be treated with dignity and professionalism. And the indignity of his treatment at OKU has made me angry and ashamed. I'm distraught to know how many St. Lucians are experiencing this same treatment, how many patients in the same predicament as Skinny would have been left to die on the chair among strangers. The day after Skinny passed, on the 31st of December, the new CEO publicly announced that the casualty ward could no longer manage to provide care to anyone other than emergency patients, and to ask the public not to come unless it was critical. Think of the absurdity and insensitivity of this request. So we are now to self-diagnose our medical issues and determine if it is life-threatening or not. The entire board needs to resign. Not just the CEO, who is clearly and, as we had predicted, ill-suited for the requirements of this position. My fellow St. Lucians, this is more than a failure of governance. It is a moral failure. Ask yourselves whether any of the SLP ministers will ever end up in the hallway of OKU awaiting medical treatment. If a government cannot prioritize essential services like the health and well-being of its people, it should forfeit its right to govern. Plain and simple. How much more can we be expected to endure? It would appear that despite the indisputable evidence, corruption has now become an accepted norm, and worse yet, is justified by too many of us. Questionable contracts are being issued, and millions of our dollars are handed out freely to friends and comrades. At the same time, ordinary St. Lucians are left with the crumbs and to bear the burden of projects that never materialize. Our citizenship by investment program, once a beacon of opportunity, has now become St. Lucia's largest scandal in our history, thus robbing us all and the country of billions of dollars, funds that could have helped relieve all of us from higher taxes, inhumane health services, poorly equipped schools, insufficient public facilities, and an ineffective police force. Instead, shady and questionable practices have raised alarms in the international community, putting our reputation and the access to the US, Canada, UK, and Europe at risk. Yet this government offers no answers or explanations to the mounting evidence of unbridled corruption and suspect agreements. Secrecy, lies, and propaganda have replaced transparency and accountability. Future generations of St. Lucians will have to pay the price for this blatant abuse of our assets long after Philip Pierre and his cabinet of misfits are gone. On behalf of the St. Lucian public, we intend to apply for a judicial review against the CIP unit and the minister for their mismanagement and illegality of their actions. This action is essential to protect our country's assets, reputation, and most importantly, our patrimony, which is currently under threat. Crime has cast a long and dark shadow over our nation. The spiraling number of murders, a record for our country, represents real families, mothers, fathers, and children. The large number means we cannot recall all the names and the stories, but all these people represent lost lives and family members, friends, and communities left grieving. These losses are becoming all too commonplace. Too many mothers and fathers have had to lay their children to rest this year. Too many lives cut tragically short, creating an unbearable pain that no parent should ever have to endure. Communities and families have been left unsupported to grapple with the lingering fallout of fear and trauma. I witnessed this firsthand through the shooting of Mello, a 13-year-old boy who was shot in his home in the presence of his mother and sisters at 11:30 at night. This government has failed to provide any help or solution to this crisis. They have failed because, in a large part, they refuse to deal with the criminal elements in their own party. Philip Pierre has betrayed us by disregarding blatant acts of corruption and criminal behavior by his ministers with no repercussions. His appointment of unqualified and partisan officials in key government positions has marginalized all the checks and balances to undermine our democracy. We've repeatedly witnessed that anyone who dares to be critical of the government is immediately attacked by his mouthpiece, Richard Frederick, other ministers, and sadly, other partisan media personalities who seem to have no understanding of their role as journalists, which is to present the truth. I've recently written to the Prime Minister indicating that the latest transgression by Mr. Frederick on his TV show, where he publicly named people and instructed the police to arrest them, are threats that must be taken seriously, as Mr. Frederick is a minister in Mr. Pierre's office. Mr. Pierre is responsible for national security. It is also reminiscent of the same allegations made about Frederick's involvement in Operation Restore Confidence, where the DPP stated that there was sufficient evidence of extrajudicial killings to proceed with the prosecution. I've clarified to the Prime Minister that this behavior is a risk to the St. Lucian public and can no longer be tolerated. Like Stephen King, Mr. Pierre prefers to bury his head in the sand and claim ignorance. His continued denial and procrastination are a strong indictment of his and his government's complicity. Our economy, too, remains fragile. Small businesses, the backbone of our communities, are fighting to survive in an environment that offers them little support. The apparent signs of a failing economy undermine the government's false claims that we're doing well. We feel it in the supermarkets, gas pumps, pharmacies, markets, and retail stores. Only a delusional government will lie to itself and us about the horrors happening in this country. Young entrepreneurs, brimming with ideas, stifled by bureaucracy, ill-advised taxes, high utility costs, inefficient port and transportation systems, corruption in several government departments, and a lack of resource access. We must create a system that nurtures innovation and minimizes risk. This is how we build an economy that works for everyone, not just those selected by the Labour Party. And what of agriculture, the foundation of our nation's history and survival? It's no secret that our farming no longer appeals to our young people. The average age of our farmers continues to rise, and the future of this essential sector hangs in the balance. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can reimagine agriculture as a field of opportunity by integrating modern technology, offering incentives, and showcasing success stories. Our party was committed to making farming a respected and attractive career choice, where young people can see a job, a legacy worth cultivating, and opportunities for creating businesses in this sector. My fellow St. Lucians, democracy is the cornerstone of our nation's governance, built on the principle that the power to lead comes from the people's consent. Undoubtedly, we are better off living as a community than individually. Each citizen possesses different skills, and all of us working together makes it more likely that we can all prosper. But when the checks and the balances legislated to protect our civil rights from the abuse of power are circumvented, corruption is allowed to flourish. It robs ordinary citizens of our rightful benefits. For democracy to truly work, your involvement does not end at the ballot box. It can only thrive when citizens remain engaged, informed, and vocal. The right to dissent, questions, and demand better from our leaders is fundamental to a healthy democracy. Speaking out against poor governance is not an act of rebellion, it's an act of patriotism, a reminder that the true power in democracy lies with us, the people. When leaders fail to honor their commitments, we must hold them accountable, ensuring that justice, transparency, and integrity are upheld for all good. Let us take the first step in 2025 to right the wrong, to compel the government to fix the problem. We must find the strength and the courage to overcome our powerlessness and fear, especially our fear of victimization, because if we don't fight back now, we'll face this forever. We cannot wait for the next general election to demand better. We must hold this government accountable for their failures and not let them take our consent for granted. Let us show this government that we will no longer accept deceit, corruption, and incompetence. The power lies with us, the people. Together we can demand leadership prioritizing health, safety, and prosperity for all. St. Lucia, it's time to support a new generation of strong, courageous leaders. Leaders with vision, integrity, and a determination to place the needs of the people above their selfish desires. Leaders who understand that governance is not about power, but about service. Leaders who appreciate the importance of planning for the future and providing a leg up for every citizen. Leaders who respect human dignity and don't prioritize people by how much they earn, what family they come from, their level of education, or their loyalty to a political party, but rather leaders who value everyone's contribution. We must teach our children that greatness comes from strong morals, humility, empathy, and mutual respect. And success requires a relentless commitment to discipline. As we look to 2025, I dream of a St. Lucia where we measure the murder rate from 0 yearly rather than the previous year. A St. Lucia where families can thrive and every worker is appreciated and valued. Imagine a St. Lucia where every child has access to a world-class education, is employed in a job they feel proud of, and earns a meaningful wage. A nation where businesses are no longer constrained by bureaucracy, but are empowered to thrive, creating jobs and economic growth. I envision a St. Lucia where tourism supports our economy and tells the story of a proud and vibrant people, where visitors have the memories of our beauty and respect for our culture and traditions, and admiration of our resilience. Picture a future where our athletes continue to stand on global podiums, our artists inspire the world, and our farmers produce for survival and prosperity. Let us dream of a St. Lucia where innovation leads the way in every sector, from technology to agriculture, and where every citizen contributes to and benefits from our collective success. This new year, the United Workers' Party will focus on building on our successes and reviewing improvement areas to become the party of choice in the coming election. We've strengthened our internal candidate selection process to ensure that those chosen best reflect the next generation of leaders who share our values and policies and will provide the best representation to deliver a better quality of life to their communities and our country. We can make St. Lucia shine again and become a nation of hope, opportunity, and boundless potential. Let us believe in ourselves and this hope so we refuse to accept the mediocrity and indignity meted out by this government. Let us stand firm in demanding that our fundamental human rights be protected so there are no more tragic stories like Skinny's. I urge you to remember that our collective power can bring the changes we desire and need. Let us not allow the current government's failures and corruption to define who we are as a people and as a country, but instead attach ourselves to the traditional beliefs, values, and God-fearing principles that make us proud to be St. Lucians. Let us every day be grateful to God that we have woken to see another day and try to make the most of it. Let us always remember who we are as a people. Let us teach our children right from wrong. Let us be kind to our neighbors. Let us lift each other in prayer. Let us stand up against the things we see that are wrong, unjust, and unfair. Let us all work together to pursue the best lives we can live as St. Lucia. We all want to live and can only live if we believe in God, in ourselves, and the promise of a better tomorrow. Happy New Year, St. Lucia. May God bless you all and our beloved country.